Okay, I'll try not to take up too much of your time, but I just want to give you a little bit more of a drill down on how I did this, how I did these wireframes, and what that means about my design. So you have a little bit of experience listening to the talk around these wireframes. So first of all, we have three page level wireframes. You can see the one called landing here. So this is the landing page. Here's the car dealer page. And that's car, it's sort of car dealer or dealer slash car, so it's a dealer and a car on the same page. And then finally the My Cars page. So all three of these, you'll see right off the bat, have a common user interface. Banner's the same in all cases. There's a selector in all cases, associations in all cases, a central area for an info type here, and then some call to action slash navigation on the bottom here. And you'll see as we move from page to page that that's really what's changing. The bottom area changes, and the idea in general of this prototype, or excuse me, this wireframe. And by the way, you know, I kind of interchange between wireframe, prototype, and mock-up. They're really all very similar terms. This technically is a wireframe, so that's the terminology I should use, but you might see me slip around a little bit. Okay, so my top three pages, the landing page, the car dealer page, and the My Cars page, all share a very common layout, and that's a good thing to do if you can, to try and give the user that feeling of stability and they know what's going on in each of the areas. And also you'll see that this is not a controversial design at all. This is a very usual design where I have global navigation on the top, local navigation on the side through the selector, and then some sort of links area here. The only thing that's even close to an innovation here is the bottom area where I have additional ideas and functionality there, and that actually works to my advantage because, as I said in class, I want this site to really drive people forward. So I want to have that a solid feel of motion going from area to area, and I want the call to action here to be very clear and very compelling. So when I'm on the landing page, the call to action is go to the dealer page. When I'm on the dealer page, the call to action is drive it. Now I haven't mocked up the functionality behind drive it, but it would be some sort of appointment thing. I have a car on the screen here, and now I can make an appointment to drive it. Okay, and when I'm on the My Page it's also make an appointment is a clear call to action, but I can go backwards and I can say find more cars, and if I say find more cars, I'm back at the landing page. Okay, so let me drill into the different areas here. I'll start with the full view, and as I said in class, this area here is a full view of one car, and because it's so big and I want to fit it into a relatively small part of the screen, I'm going to break that full view into 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we'll look at the 4 parts, and I'll explain briefly the decisions that I made there and how that reflects the overall design of my system, including the info model as well as the info persona. Okay, so tab number 1 is the overview. It gives the car name, short description of the car. I have short descriptions everywhere. That's really part of my design, is to have a lot of annotation and a lot of pop-ups with friendly descriptions of things in them, and the car itself has a short description. And so the other thing I want to do is I want to have a cover flow here, and the cover flow is of all the media. I explained in class how the media is attached to the car as it is in some dealer's lot, not attached to the car in general. So this cover flow can have a lot of different pictures, and what I would intend is that each image of the cover flow, it could be a video as this one is shown here, or an image, will take you to that particular car. So here's yet another way of getting to a car at a dealer. Each one of these images are particular to the car, let's say a Mini, in a particular dealer. So if I click on one of these, I'll get right to the dealer, and that again is moving me forward through the funnel. I have a like button here, which will add the car to my list of cars that I like. I can tweet about it, and I can auto post it to Facebook. And of the 3 of them, this is the one that's most important to me, because having people post this, having them post a partial view of a car onto Facebook is really good for me, because that draws more people to my site, that draws more people into my system. So I might even, if I was to redesign this, push this function a little bit more and not just have it as you could do this, but you should do this. And I think that's a fair critique of this design. that this is an important feature to me, this Facebook feature, so I should really play it up and not just have it in the usual list of here's places you can post this thing. Okay, so this is the overview. So this is the big parts of the car, and you'll remember that my design says my cars have personality, they have best uses, they have features, and they're also, I track famous people who have owned them because I think that has something to do with you coming to like this car as well. So these three lists are partial lists of all the personality traits assigned to this kind of car, all the uses assigned to this kind of car, and the major features. So when we look at features, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but suffice it to say that this is one small view of the car that should give you a pretty good idea of if it's the car for you, based on personality traits. Okay, let's now look at the personality tab, and you'll see a little drill down on personality. So here's the personality tab, and you'll see that I have an icon for every personality type, and I also have an icon for the personality type, and I have a title for the personality type. So this is the personality type name, high energy, individualistic, etc. And now I have a larger box. Instead of just having a mouse over pop-up that shows the short description associated with the personality types, I now think that there's reason to put it all on the screen here. So a click or even a mouse over on any of these terms fills this text area full of the two short descriptions. The short description of the personality type, which would say something like high energy means ... and then the car dash personality short description. In the bridge table between car and personality, I also have a space for a short description that might say the Mini is really high energy because blah blah blah. So you see the difference? This is the short description of high energy itself, and this is the short description of why high energy applies to the Mini. Okay, so it says personality, but I think it's fair to say personality and best uses can go on this tab. Keeping it down, keeping the labels down here, the size of the labels, and not violating the label too much. So best for commuting, status, and cruising, and the functionality is the same way. I have an icon for each of my uses. I have a title for each of my uses. I have a short description that applies directly to the use, and then a short description that applies to the use in the context of that car. Now notice that my car personality or my car use short description is optional, but it's not optional to have a short description for every one of my uses and every one of my personalities, which means there'll always be some text in this box, and sometimes, because this is optional, it won't just be it won't be very long. Let me actually drop down to the navigation here. Actually, no, let me go through the features and then I'll talk about how this navigation works, because it's the same you'll see on all of these different tabs. So that was personality. Here's features. So features, again, uses this same motif up here. Here are all the features: nice interior, good media system, and here is the short description and the short description of that feature applied to that car. So the thing here is that I have two kinds of features. One where the type is standard, so these are standard features, and I've decided that my standard features are a small list of very high level features. Nice interior, good media, gas mileage, right? That's at a very high level, and that's for Michelle, who really wants to just know nice interior and doesn't really care more than that at the moment. And then there are these optional features. So each car has its list of optional features, and that's a big deal about how they're sold. So it has, you know, leather seats or something like that, and so here are all the optional features that you can find anywhere on in any of these cars. Now remember, we're not at particular cars yet. We're just at all the cars that are around my area. If you put them all together, they have all of these different features. And once again, instead of having icon and title here, we have a hierarchical list. Notice that it's indented. I've decided that my extra features are a hierarchical list, whereas my high-level features are not hierarchical. Okay, and then the same function, you click on one of these or you mouse over it and you get the short descriptions in here. Okay, finally, stories, tab number 4. Stories, I want to have every story associated with this car in a cover flow, and instead of the cover flow being media only, these cover flows are actually going to have the short descriptions of the stories. So you can flip through these stories. Every story has a picture associated with it, every story has a title associated with it, and some short description, and that ought to fit pretty well on these cover flows. I click on one of them and I go to the long description of the story. And if you'll remember, the long descriptions are rich text, and so they can have images and media and all the other stuff like that. Notice the standard features here that are in every tab of Like It, Tweet It, and Facebook It. And now let me talk a little bit about the standard navigation. So my full views of a car, this is a particular car, but you'll see when I get to the rest of the screen that in fact it's a list of cars, and this is the navigator through the list. It's a sequence of cars in the order that I would like you to see them. So here's the full list of cars. If I drop this list down, I'll see all the cars that are currently in my list that I've come up with of cars that I like. And here's the next car on the list, here's the previous car on the list. So the idea here is that it's an easy navigation through all the cars that you've come up with. You can get to any one of them randomly by looking at this list, and you can also go next, next, next through, making it hopefully very convenient for the user to look at lots of cars really quickly. And no matter what tab I'm in here, I can go next, 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 and go through all the different cars. Okay, so that covers this area in here. Let's look at the selector. The selector is what sets the list of cars. So I described the bottom area here that says I have a list of cars and I can make it through those list of cars by going next, next, back, back, back. Here's the selector that gets me to those different cars. So I have all these indexes. I have a car personality index, I have a car use index, and I have a car feature index. And this is the selector that allows me to figure out what it is I want. So the way this works is I have a drop-down list, and every time I choose something from the drop-down list, it adds it to this list. These are cars. I want a creative, down-to-earth, and dynamic car. I have a mouse over, and the mouse over gives me the short description. Dynamic people in their cars. They drive, are on the move, and full of energy. If I want to get this, if I want to remove this from the list, I have a little trash can icon here. I click the trash can icon, it goes away. I choose another one from the list, it adds it to it. And as I do that, I'm building the list of cars. I'm building the list of cars that I'm going to come up with in that center area. Exactly in the same way, I have my uses here. I can click and create a new use. All the current uses that I've chosen are here. Mouse over a use, I get this pop-up. It has a trash can icon, so I can get rid of those again. Same thing with the features. Now these are the top level, the big features, not the drill down features that are, you know, all sorts of things about, you know, four-wheel drive versus manual transition and all this kind, manual transmission and all that kind of stuff. So here's my selector. I make a bunch of choices in here, and by making those choices, I set the list of items in a way that I will tell you about later when I describe the algorithm here. I'm going to have to figure out how to make this come up with a linear list, with a sequence of cars, and that's going to be an algorithm that's not sitting here in the user interface. Okay, and then a little bit of management here. I can clear all the fields really quickly by clicking this button. I can save this search. This is basically a search, and I can load some search that I've saved before. So this little area here has a decent amount of functionality for list management, but hopefully not overwhelming and not something that a Michelle type, not so techie type of user can't deal with. Hopefully it's fairly intuitive. Okay, so that's the selector. As I said before, the selector sets the list of cars that are in here, and while I'm on a particular car, I can associate with different cars. So I have this area, and here are other cars you might like. So cars that have similar personalities, cars that have similar uses, cars that have similar features. Again, there's an algorithm behind all of these that say which cars are, and then our top choices for you, the ones that I think are closest to this car in a way that I'll describe some other time when I describe the algorithm behind how do you put this together. So I'm starting to build up a stock of things that I have to describe later in my code spec, a set of algorithms that I'm going to need to run in order to figure out what goes in each of these areas. And as usual, I have a pop-up, and the pop-up has a short description of the car here. And so I click a car and I go to it. That changes the car in. I make a click in the association area. That changes the car that's up here in this area, and also adds it to the list of cars that I can scroll through. All right, that's the functionality of this page, and hopefully you understand that. And now I can go on to the main idea here, which is you use the selector and you use the associations to browse around through lots of cars and see which cars you like. You may like them as you go along, or you may find that I've come along to a car that I now want to look closer into. And so there's a big call to action at the bottom of the screen here. What dealers have this kind of car? I like it. It seems like one I'm more interested in. And now I'm going to see which dealers have that car. And now I go to the dealer cars page. This page is dealing with what I've come up to find is my second major entity here. One major entity clearly is a car, like a Mini, and another entity is the car in the context of a dealer. The Mini sold by, Subaru of Seattle. And so this is all about Subaru of Seattle and about the Mini that they're selling. Not about the Mini Cooper in general, but about the particular Mini that they have at this dealership. And so let's look at these different areas in turn. And I'll start at the bottom here. Let's see. So I'm not liking this design now that I see it. See this current car and dealer. Well, let's just stay with it right now. This is the same kind of navigation as I saw in the cars, and I'm a little torn because now it's pulled out into this bottom area where before it was in this area here. And I think I would do that. I think I would go back and fix this so that this area is included in the car dealer area. In fact, did I do that already? No, I didn't. So anyway, I'm arguing with my design here now that I look at it again. I'd kind of like to take this area here and move it up in here because that's where it was in the other page. That leaves my bottom clearly as a call to action area, and it doesn't get messed up with this here. Okay, so this, however, is the navigator. It allows me to go to the next one in my list, next in the list, previous in the list, and see the whole list. The selector is going to build the list as always. The car dealer is going to show me one item from the list, and the association is going to show me other cars that are like the one that I'm seeing right now. Other car dealers that are like the one I'm seeing right now. So the selector, here's how the selector works. It gives me all the dealers with the zip code of the dealer and the price of the car at that dealer, all in a long list here for the Mini Cooper, right? These are all the Minis in the Seattle area. And so I can choose order that list. When I choose order that list, I get this little drop down area. So this area right here is going to show up down here covering some of the list. And it allows me to specify how I want that list ordered. By zip code, so zip codes closest to me, furthest to me, by city, cities by city closest to me, further than me, and price, from lowest price to highest price, or from highest price to lowest price, depending on what I choose here. And so the functionality I intend for this is these are all mutually exclusive sorts. I can sort by zip code, I can sort by proximity to my city, and I can also sort by price. And so when I click one of these and I click in and give focus to one of these controls here, the other ones will gray, and that will be the one that orders this list. So hopefully that's an intuitively obvious interface, but I'm not actually going to know that very well until I do this as an HTML prototype. Okay, and I have the same list management features here as I had before. So here's my selector for car dealers. So this gives me a list of car dealers, and again, the car dealer is the Mini Cooper sold by Seattle sold by Subaru of Seattle, the Mini Cooper sold by Gus Jones's car dealership, etc., etc. And now I can also change the car dealer page by going to the associations. And since this is about dealers, and I want to do a little bit more for my dealers than I have before, because it's sort of dealer agnostic, when you're on a dealer, now I'm going to have a little area that says dealers at other cars like this one at the current dealer. So as close as I could get at this current dealer, and that helps the dealers to say, well, when you're on the dealer page, I want you to know about my dealership more than I want you to know about the car, and so we're gonna donate or designate the association areas to talk about the dealers, not about the cars. So here's a picture of the car. Here's all the different extras, because that's what's going to differentiate the same car or similar cars on the same lot, is the different extra features, leather seats, anti-lock brakes, etc. And we'll have a little list here. In addition, because you can browse around through here, I'm going to have, every time you click on something, I'm going to have a little list here that has all the cars that you've looked at through this association, so that you can quickly get back to ones that you've looked at before. Okay. So now the focus of the page here is the item. Once again, the selector builds a list of the items to show here. The associations allow you to go from one item of type car dealer to another item of type car dealer. And now let's look at the car dealer itself. Here's a flow, and the cover flow here is all the media that's associated with this car at this dealer. I have my standard like it, tweet it and Facebook it, which will like this car at this dealer as opposed to the previous screen just like a type of car. This likes a particular car. And then I have the extra features that are at this location. So really what differentiates one Mini Cooper from another is the extra features. Other than that, they all have the same personality, because that personality is associated with Mini Cooper. It's not associated with a particular Mini Cooper. So the only thing really that's different here is that I have the extras, because that's what differentiates this dealer's car from other dealers' car. I should have price here. I think I forgot to put price here. Price should be big. It should be like right up here, front and center, because that's an important thing that people care about. I forgot that in this wireframe, so there should definitely be price here. And then there's dealer information here. Dealer name with a little map, their address, their phone number, email, Facebook, an image that goes with the dealer, and then if I click here, I'm going to go to the dealer full view. I'm not detailing the dealer full view. I've decided instead to detail a different page, not the dealer full view. But if I was detailing the dealer full view, and wireframing is that I have to do eventually if this was a real project, I would click here and I could go to a dealer full view. Okay, one more page to look at, the My Cars page, but the My Cars page is pretty simple because it's really mostly stealing from those other pages. It's using a lot of the same stuff that the other pages uses. In particular, it's using exactly the same full view viewer for cars, and so everything, personality and overview and features and stories, that's exactly the same on the My Cars page as it was before. The selector is a little bit different. Now I have car type with all the dealers for this particular car, so the assumption here is I've chosen this car, and now what I want to do is I want to move towards the dealer car. So the My Cars page in this area looks a lot like the cars page, the select a cars page, but what I'm trying to do here is move you towards dealers, and so in the list creator I'm going to list the cars at their dealers, and then I can order that list by zip code, closest to me, furthest to me, from all the cars that I've chosen, price low to high, and then type of car, or sorry, most recently viewed, least recently viewed, the ones that I've actually clicked from the likes, and I can also load cars from a saved search in this selector. So as usual, selector allows me to set the list. This area allows me to move from car to car to car to car to car, and this association area here is going to be exactly like the association area on the car page. It's going to give top choices similar by personality, similar by uses, and similar by features. Okay, so that's the run through of the prototype. Actually, the only last thing I need to show you is the banner. Banner's pretty simple. Here's my name of my company, the Car pour Vous Incorporated. That means the car for you, incorporated in French. About us, cars, which is the cars page. Dealers, which I don't have implemented. My Cars, which I do have implemented, and some sort of random please me function, which I would implement to be, for as much as I know about you based on what you've done on my site, I'll take you to some cars that I think you might like by what you've looked at so far. So I'm not going to implement a lot of these. I put them in here for completeness. But the ones that I want you to pay attention to are the Cars one and the My Cars one. And I don't have Car Dealer here because it doesn't make sense to go to Car Dealer from the global navigation. All right, so hopefully that helps you. A, understand the design that I'm putting together to show you as an example, but B, to give you some idea of how we talk about this stuff and what kind of things are useful to think about, and how the wireframes are a direct extension of the work I did in user personas, the work I did in info modeling, the work I did in funnels, the work I did in user journeys, and all of that coming together and now starting to become really real. In our last stage, when we do templating, it's going to become really real. We're actually going to mock up, or not mock up, we're actually going to build some HTML pages that we're going to build some of the HTML pages that these wireframes imply.